Please join me in welcoming Jamie Scrimger.
Hello. Thanks everybody for having me. Really appreciate it. GovernWise always throws great events, and thank you for sticking around for the last presentation and letting me chat with you. I guess if we could go with the PowerPoint. You ready? So we're just going to talk a little bit about building resilient communities, kind of the title we threw in there. I will talk a little bit about the finance and then some of the other intricacies with emergency management. So you don't have to listen to me the whole time. Please, if you have stories or anything you'd like to contribute, pop in. I'd love to hear from you. And then we can just have more of a back and forth conversation. One thing is that the emergency management program is a little bit different between provinces. So if you do have some stories, just state which province you're from so we can get kind of an idea of that. Yeah, I guess I have to do this. There we go. So just for the agenda of it, we'll talk about what is emergency management, the ISE funding, and the Emergency Management Assistance Program, and then situational awareness, so a couple tools that whether the federal government or provincial governments have put together so that we can be really aware of what's going on in the country, from fire and flood, smoke drift, all that kind of stuff. So I guess first, we'll go through what is emergency management. So the management of emergencies concerning all hazards, including all activities and risk management measures related to prevention, mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. So this comes from Public Safety Canada. They're actually the expert in emergency management for the federal government. Because we're on First Nation reserves for how this is administered is a bit different. So Public Safety Canada controls the emergency management in the ministries. And then because of the relationship between ISC and the First Nations, ISC takes over that role for the funding of the First Nation emergency management. They've broken it down into 4 pillars, Indigenous Services Canada has, so mitigation and preparedness, response and recovery. So the mitigation and preparedness part is everything you're doing before an emergency, right? Whether it's to prepare, to train, anything like that, getting everything ready. Response and recovery is response when it actually occurs, and then recovery, how do we build back better? So the Emergency Management Assistance Program, now this is the program that my position's actually funded through. So Nokeewan Tribal Council gets funding for my position. I support 5 different communities. You can get this at the community level. You just have to apply through the Emergency Management Assistance Program, and then they figure out how high risk your community is and if they have the funds to support a position within the community. It's administered provincially, so it is significantly different in Manitoba than it is in Ontario. Even though it's Indigenous Services Canada, they're just broken down in a provincial context. It's always open, so when you apply, there's no dates or timelines or anything. You can apply at any point in time, and it's divided into 2 sections. So the 2 sections are, the first one is mitigation and preparedness. So again, anything before the emergency, right? So this one is entirely proposal-based. You would fill out the funding proposal, you hand it in, they say yay or nay, and if they say yes, they end up giving you the financial resources you've requested with a 10% holdback for when you're completed the project. One of the great things about this one is that you get the money first. You don't have to put the money up first. FireSmart is one of the main things that is funded under this. So FireSmart is sort of the mitigating the fires within your community of forest fires. So any funding has to be specifically for forest fire use. It can't be structural. But you can kind of, I don't know, a pump's a pump, right? So there is some wiggle room with that. It's also for non-structural mitigation. So it doesn't do dams or dikes or anything that's actually like a physical building or anything of that context. You can't buy trucks, anything like that. One of the things that Nokeewan has done is we were able to do all of our 911 mapping through this. So we got funding to put some drones up in the air, collect all the data on our communities, the topography, flood vulnerability study, get as much information as we could get with the drones, and then build out some risk management and mitigation strategies with it. And now all of our communities, hopefully soon, will all have 911 access and deployment. So this is sort of that FireSmart piece again. I'm just emphasizing a bit because it's one of the main things they fund. They really push FireSmart, and they have a whole pot of money just dedicated to that. So if you're looking to remove fuel around your communities or anything like that, and really the whole point of it is to make sure fires don't spread from home to home, right? And then making sure that if you have a structural fire, it's not going to spread. This is just a quick overview of the actual PAW that you would hand in for that proposal. With this, my only advice would be to, as you fill it out, make sure you're telling a story. Why does your community require this? What have you done to build up your emergency management program? And if this is the beginning of your program, that's fine. Just really make sure you're telling a story, and ISC seems to be pretty responsive to that. So the second one we move into is the second part of the funding, so response and recovery. So with response and recovery, this is the kind of tricky one where you have to be in an active emergency for the response. So you have to be experiencing a flood right at that moment. And how you do the funding for this one is you actually reach out to a gentleman in Ontario called Marco, and you send him an email and you say, I need to do X, Y, Z, and I need this much money. Marco sends you an email back saying, yes, that's great, go ahead. But you have to put out the money first. So the community has to spend the money. Oh, I saw that face over there. So the community has to put out the money first and then get reimbursed, and it's all based on an email. So in this one, you have to be super careful to make sure you have one person sort of doing those interactions and making sure you're keeping your paper trail. Because the reason why they do it this way is so it's faster, so Marco can approve immediately, but that doesn't mean the money flows faster, right? You'll have to get the back pay from it. So it does put the community in a vulnerable situation financially, because as we all know, emergencies are super expensive. And this one also plays in if you have to evacuate. So on Ontario, we've done quite a few evacuations. So this so this would play into that as well. With evacuations, there is other financial supports that are out there. There's just ways to access them in the context that if you declare an emergency in your flying community, the Ministry of Natural Resources actually would arrange your flights for you and they would pay for those flights. So they end up billing ISC. So those really, really expensive pieces, they do try to make sure that someone with bigger pockets is covering them. These are the contacts that we have for it. So you've got Marco and Randy for response and recovery, and then we've got Norman and Rosie for the first one there, the mitigation. I kind of wanted to go through the situational awareness. So for the province, we have this really nice situational awareness portal. This is all the emergencies that have been declared in this year for the province of Ontario. Because Indigenous Services Canada has an agreement with Emergency Management Ontario, First Nations do have access to this resource. So when you declare a state of emergency, you can go to the Provincial Emergency Operations Center and they'll help you coordinate it. Just like that flight piece we were talking about, they would actually call the MNRF and the MNRF would get you those flights. So they're kind of the go-between for everything you need. So same thing if you ever have a structural fire on your community, this is your access to the Office of the Fire Marshal for those investigations and things like that. So although Emergency Management Ontario doesn't play a huge role in it, they are that coordinating body that gets you the access to the resources that you do need, and they bring in your federal partners as well. This one here is the Forest Fire Info Map. So this is the Aviation and Forest Fire Emergency Services. So they just got this nice little map and all the active fires on it. So when you actually go to the website, you can zoom in, you can see exactly where the fire is. So if you smell smoke in your community, this is a great tool to be like, why do I smell smoke? This is updated super quick. It's an internal update from the ministry. So as soon as they get a fire reported, it's on here. So you get minute-to-minute reports on here. They don't give you as much information as they would have internally, but it gives you a pretty good amount. So kind of here, so it'll tell you this is Thunder Bay Fire 21. The size is 50 hectares. It's in the district of Thunder Bay, and it's under control. So meaning that it's not going to spread anymore. So we're not super concerned about this fire because the MNR is saying we've got it handled. Now, if it was out of control and it was super close to your community and you were worried, you might end up calling the fire management headquarters to see if it is something to be super concerned about. And then all the First Nation communities are on here too, so you can see Fort William right in there, so we can see how far it is from there. And then that's all I have for the presentation part. Is there any specific questions about anything I talked about or emergency management? Oh, perfect.
Good afternoon. How are you? I'm well, thank you. Question, usually when there is a huge emergency, what I've observed is that the Red Cross gets involved in some way and somehow, and how does that work? How does that partner with the First Nation and the Indigenous Services Canada and everything else? Thank you.
Are you from Manitoba? Okay, so Manitoba community. So again, like we talked about, Manitoba and Ontario a little bit different. So what's happened is in Ontario, Indigenous Services Canada has that bilateral agreement with the province, so with Emergency Management Ontario, to deal with evacuations and emergencies. What they've done in Manitoba is they've partnered with the Red Cross. So they have an agreement with the Red Cross that they activate when First Nations have an emergency. So they have that scope of dealing with the evacuations. So if your community was ever evacuated, it would actually be the Red Cross dealing with it. Yeah, instead of, I think it's MEMO here, so Manitoba Emergency Management Office takes a bit of a back seat, whereas for us, Emergency Management Ontario takes a front seat. Yeah. Cool. Thank you so much for the question. Anybody? Oh. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Hey, I gotta get my steps in, right?
My question is there any resources for the First Nations in Ontario to come up with an internal emergency preparedness in their own communities? Like right now, that's one of the issues for Manitoba. We've had ice storm, we've been flooded in my community, but there is no dollars or funding to prepare for any kind of crisis. I think I'd rather leave our membership at home and deal with it internally instead of bringing them into the city of Winnipeg, because we were displaced for 8 years and it puts a lot of strain. So in Ontario, is there any discussions or do you know of any internal funding for those First Nations?
Yeah, for sure. So in Ontario, it is positions like mine, so the emergency management advisor at the Tribal Council, but this position can also be in the community. So as a community emergency management coordinator, and then with the emergency management assistance program, you apply to that for different projects to build that capacity within the community. Yeah. There is small generators are available under that EMAP funding. So yeah. Mm-hmm. One of the things they have gone to is that instead of getting individual generators, you could get a large generator that could be hardwired in. Yeah. Definitely. So,
Like a safe house,
yep.
like if all the eye goes out, you get this generator, heat up this big building, then all the families could come there and wait for those 17 days, and you could try to feed them, right?
Definitely a shelter-in-place model. So they do have that through that EMAP program, is that they would call it an emergency operations center, and then you get your generator in there, hardwire it in. The hardwiring is hard to come by for funding, though. You can get the generator, but to actually get someone in there to... Yes, yeah, we do have a couple spots in Ontario that do have that, as well as you can get cots, cots and food of that context to put in there to make sure that people could stay there for multiple days. We also have go ahead.
No, that was my question, just to see if there is anything started in your province.
Yeah.
I know we're kind of behind here in Manitoba, but I mean, we keep pushing the funder on it, but nothing yet. Thank you.
You're welcome. There's a huge movement too for instead of the evacuation, doing a shelter in place is sort of what you're referring to. So when we have forest fire smoke, right? Because most communities don't get evacuated because the fire is so close. They get evacuated because of smoke. So we have been moving to more of they're called air filtration systems that we've been putting in that are mobile. So they're called air guardians. IFNA, one of their communities is Pekanjikam, has had a lot of success with that, making the school a shelter in place. So they have food, cots, and then these mobile air filtration systems, as well as some smaller ones that they can put into elders' homes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh. Thanks, Master. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I got you, Elder Dave.
I come from Pagwas First Nation. We've been displaced since, ever since I was a kid. Every year, annually. We went through the flood of the century. I kind of smiled when you said, spend your money and we'll pay you back. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's never paid back. The amount that you spend millions on your community. So I don't know what they do in Ontario. Maybe someone's a little bit more planned out. But I talked to our community about the long-term effects of displacement and who's going to pick up the tab for mental health when displaced. My son got evacuated 8 years ago. He still isn't home. He's living in a hotel with Red Cross. They pay for it millions and millions of dollars. Why didn't they just build him a house? You know, I don't see their thinking. Like they'd rather fill pockets of businesses in the city rather than deal with the problem on site. So emergency management needs to start hearing from the grassroots level what will work. You know, we don't want a Band-Aid effect. So keep working, but listening to the long-term effects. My grandchildren drive past Holiday Inn and said, "When we going home?" You know, when we going home? They think Holiday Inn is their home. That's where they were born. Had four grandchildren born in Winnipeg during their stay. So it has changed the dynamics of our community drastically. We've had our membership living in the city of Winnipeg for 8 years. We moved the ones home, but they brought something with them. They brought addiction. They brought heroin. They brought fentanyl. They brought hard drugs. And it's changing our society at home. And we're behind in terms of mental health. How do we look after our people? You know, so when you talk about emergency management, you need to look at the holistic part of it. It's not just the physical distress of being cold or being flooded. It's the spiritual part. It's the community spirit. And we as a community, how are we defined? Are we going to allow society to define us? Just some thoughts.
No, you're 100% right, and we're seeing that in emergency management, that the evacuation itself is a hazard, right, to the community and the trauma. Yeah. Yeah.
What do we do with that when they left and they were underage and everyone was healthy and they come back? And
No,
where's the help or the guidance or the support?
definitely. We're seeing, like, one of our communities right now at Nokiwan, Fort William First Nation, is in a declaration of emergency for social reasons, the exact same thing, right? The opioids, the lack of, the loss of culture, the trauma over the years. It's what we've been trying to do recently, and thankfully you got to hear Audrey speak, was really bringing in the culture back, right? We're bringing in speakers that bringing in the language and things of that nature. And it's so interesting because I do fires and floods, right? But like, it's so more holistic, exactly what you're saying. So I'm learning a ton as well as we go, because it is that whole community piece rather than just like, oh, there's a fire, let's go away, right? So no, your words are bang on, for sure. Thank you. Thank you. But yeah.
Question back to that gentleman back there. Who had the question back here?
Thank you. Those are very good points raised by the gentleman from Peguis. Just very quickly, Cross Lake, where I'm from, also had an emergency. Not too long ago, there was a huge fire. We had to evacuate very quickly. And what happened was that the fire ended up going near the highway. And that's the only highway to get out of there. So it was really traumatizing for our people at that time. Anyhow, my question is, This information, because it's Indigenous Service Canada, the names of the communities who have received funding should be there, right? You would think?
So who's been successful with the funding before?
Yeah, usually Indigenous Services Canada provides a summary of the communities they fund. That should be there, right?
Yeah, on the Emergency Management Assistance Program page there is. It's a little outdated though. I believe it was 2022 is the last time they updated that. But yeah, you're correct.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Which
That
is
was
a great resource because it'll give you an idea of what other people have been funded.
exactly.
Yeah, no, good point.
One more here.
Oh, for sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the comments, guys. Very useful information. I just wanted to know, would you be able to share templates on emergency management? Because I know that most communities, especially mine, I'm from Moose Lake, Moose Eye Cree Nation, and we don't have any policies or procedures and who to contact if there was an emergency. The thing with living up north is fires, and we don't even have nothing to go by. So if you guys could share these procedures, I'll be grateful.
No, for sure. I can get, if Chantal's good with it, putting a little package together of emergency management, because you're 100% right. There's, when you're looking provincially in Ontario, there's a guiding legislative process through it. So there's the Emergency Management Civil Protection Act that tells municipalities exactly what they need, how they need it, what they need to do step by step by step, right? And that's really lacking from a First Nation context. So certainly I've been working with a group of people on that and making sort of emergency response plan templates, HIRA, so hazard identification and risk assessment templates. So yeah, I'd love to share that for sure.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you.
Do you have programs that go out into the community to go train them? Like in Manitoba, we have EMO. So we have programs to teach young people how to set up a tiger dam, how to put out a fire, skills that belong to a fireman. But because we live in a fire-prone area, that should be a life skill that we should have
Definitely.
trained within the community.
So underneath the emergency management the EMAP, so the funding body there, in the first two pillars, you can apply for those that type of training. One of the main ones that you'll see, it's a national standard. It's called the S100, if you're familiar with forest firefighting. So that's across the board in Canada as the standard, and you would need that to work for in Ontario the AFFES, or in Manitoba, I believe it's the Ministry of Natural Resources that does the fire here as well. So not only would your people be trained in it, you would also be able to get jobs through it as well. Yeah, that's been really successful, particularly in Ontario. That we have what we call initiative crews. So in Fort William First Nation, for example, one of Nokeeman's communities, we have 2 initiative crews that are based on Fort William for the whole fire season. They're Fort William members, but they're actually employed by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry. And then we also do a prescribed burning there. So kind of like that Fire Smart thing, so fuel mitigation, where in the springtime we go out and we burn all the grass in the ditches, around the play areas, the houses, all that kind of stuff. Just so as the summer goes on, it really mitigates that risk of fire around the homes. And you do it in the spring so that if it does get away from you, not that that's ever happened, and gets into the trees, it goes out. Yeah. But there is, so any sort of training, like we've done search and rescue through that program. Drone, we have some drone operators within our communities through there. So if you can find a training program and relate it back to emergency management and make a good story to ISC again, you have a really good chance of getting some of that stuff approved. And those tiger dams are pretty cool. Yeah, they're definitely neat. Thank you.
That's better than sandbagging.
Oh, 100% better than sandbagging. When I worked fire, when it was super flood season, we'd have to sandbag. It was awful. I'm like, give me a chainsaw rather than a shovel. But
Yeah, the question was posing to her, does she have training programs that would go into the communities, especially rural communities, to train young people, adults, elders, on how to set up emergency management? Even just know who to call, how to apply for funding, who pays for funding. You know, and how do we? It's all about advertisement. It's all about we need this because, you know, I know Northwestern Ontario, most communities are flowing out. You know, but you never hear anything after. You go to the other side of the country, Jasper burns. You know, right to the ground. And the week after, they got dozers in there. They got building crews. They're rebuilding on the government's money. You know, why aren't you doing that for our people? You know, there has to be some type of system that's we're treated equally.
Definitely.
You know, our disasters are no less than theirs, or no greater.
No, that's a great point. Actually, in 2022, the Office of the Auditor General did, I guess, an audit on this program, so the Emergency Management Assistance Program. And one of the main things they found was that most of the money was put into the pillar of response, right? Because that's the, for lack of a better word, the sexy pillar, right? You're like, oh, we got to respond right now. Recovery got significantly less money. Right? So they're like, oh, hey, everybody cares. And then it's like, oh, recovery really, really drops off, as well as the front two pillars, that mitigation and prevention area. So you're 100% right on that. And then what they are doing now is there is, it's a little bit farther along in BC, but Indigenous Services Canada and Emergency Management Ontario has reached out to the First Nations to talk about a trilateral emergency management agreement. So to get all the groups working together to figure out how to address emergency management and identify those roles and responsibilities. So it's a little bit farther in BC, but it was one of the recommendations by that Auditor General report. So we're just in talks about it right now in Ontario. We've got Indigenous Services Canada has put together a technical working group that I've been sitting on. To do that. And everybody, like the First Nations in Ontario have been reached out to, but it does seem that some are unaware of it. So if there's any chief council or anybody here that would like to be involved in that, give me a heads up and I'll send you the Indigenous Services Canada contact so you can get involved. I don't know how far along it is in Manitoba or if it even has started, but in Ontario it is starting, and in BC they're about, I don't know, maybe like 11 months ahead of us. So there is some documentation there as well to see what they've done to try and make these agreements.
Alberta, like for Jasper, they rebuilt it right after the fire was out. So Jasper has that in place that any kind of emergency on or off reserve, they deal with it immediately. I'm
pretty unfamiliar about exactly what they've done in Jasper, but you are right. It's not First Nation land. It would be a municipality as well as a park. A federal park. So I'm not exactly sure what they've done there. There is a lot of reports out, if you're interested in about municipalities that are affected by fire and how they rebuild. There's a lot of documentation on Fort McMurray and the recovery process and all that stuff. So I would assume they've got some lessons learned from Fort Mac and have moved that into Jasper, but personally,
Does fire, wouldn't that be same like emergency, like for flood and other stuff like that? Like my husband was saying, their reserve was dislocated for 8 years and such, and some aren't even home because when they started after 8 years giving some houses, the families grew, they were underage, they come back with 3-4 kids and a husband. And another husband, and yet there was 11 of you when you left, now there's 16, you know? Or 20, and you still have one house. Like, the government doesn't take that into effect. Sure. That you were this much when you left, now you're tripled coming back. So when they give you only 177 homes and you need 300.
Yeah.
What, like for emergency measures, like what they did in Jasper, don't you think that should be all over Canada? Like, to have that emergency in place instead of waiting, like he says his nephew or son or grandson still living in the hotel with a family. And the kids think that's their home holiday, and I'm just kidding. But that's true, right?
For sure, yeah.
Like, I think all the communities need to come together to fight the government. Like, we need to be treated equally, like everyone else, and I don't even know what else to say about it.
No, you're bang on, right? One of the things that has really been talked about in the people I hang out with anyways, so emergency management folks, is that sometimes my position's a symptom, right? Like I am a symptom of a greater problem, and one of those big problems is the lack of infrastructure. So when I first started this job, a lot of the actual evacuations that Audrey lends me out sometimes, so I had the pleasure of helping Niskandiga with an evacuation, and that was critical infrastructure, right? So my job is sometimes a symptom of lack of infrastructure, of lack of support, and then I'm a Band-Aid solution, right? So you're 100% right that from a...
How would you bring it into something like put it in place to give like INAC or whoever for emergency measures? I don't even know how to put it.
There is... Oh. Yeah. No, this is 100% boils down to money, yeah.
That's number one.
Yep.
One of the things I think I'm hearing here is, my point is, one of the things that is money. It boils down to money, and a lot of our First Nations in Manitoba, I can honestly say, lack the resources. It's the resources that we don't have. You hear Peguis is part of our tribal council. They live in, I heard it mentioned as a bowl. Well, how come they don't come up with a solution to properly drain that First Nation? You have engineers, you have all kinds of experts. But again, it boils down to money. You know, that's the road to all evil. You talk about Jasper, I mean, I don't think we should be discussing Jasper, but that's probably a number one place you can go for a vacation. You know, and like I said, it boils down to money. We can't answer for the government of Alberta, but it's one of a destination hotspot for a lot of people that want to go on vacation. Of course, you're going to put all resources. I mean, you want to talk about all things. Look at Calgary that flooded. They soon rebuilt quickly, but when it comes to us, you have two different jurisdictions. You have provincial and you have federal. We're federal responsible. But problem we have is coming together and working together. I mean, our tribal council, to answer one of the gentleman's call behind me, was we do get emergency preparedness dollars through our tribal, but it's pennies. They expect to have the resources internally for the 7 First Nations under our tribal when they only get so much amount of funding. And that puts a lot of strain on everybody, right? Everybody has a need, everyone has different issues, but we're all in the same pool. Thank you.
Thank you. You're bang on. You are seeing a bit of some other things happening in BC as they seem to be a little bit ahead of the game. I think it's because there's a little more respect there for UNDRIP. So we are seeing a group called FINASE coming up. Well, not coming up. They're actually quite large. So I don't want to they're doing a ton of work there with Forest Fire and actually administrating some of that emergency management assistance program on behalf of ISC for the Fire Smart. Yeah, so I think it's exactly what you're saying is taking that back and having the communities come together and really identify the grassroots problem, and as you were saying, see it as a really holistic issue. Thank you.
Yeah, Ani. Yeah, just a couple of clarifying questions. Sorry, Matthias Nadishnakas, Katkanzi B and Donjaba Magnin Dodum. You mentioned a contact Marco that you email ahead of time. Do you have the contact information? Can you share that? And then for those costs that we are expected to pay up front, is there any adjusting for inflation over the time in which we pay for it and the value that was put in at that time, and then when it is eventually recouped, will it account for that? And then as well, how far back can you go? Because on Garden River, we have like maybe 70 homes that were damaged from fire, and they're still sitting there unaddressed. So a couple of questions. Miigwech.
Oh, thank you. Those are great questions. Yes, the contacts for sure. We'll send them out. Marco, Rosie, all those folks will get you all the ISC contacts. For the applying to Marco with the emails, I think the expectation there is that you're doing it in the moment, so it's immediate. You're emailing back and forth, but I don't think they take into consideration inflation if they take longer to pay you. So you do, I believe, have to hold the pot without getting reimbursed for a period of time, depending on how long it takes them. I've had some be super quick, and we've had other ones that have taken, gosh, probably, I think the longest one I had was about 7 months. That's one of our communities had to hold the bag. Yeah. And then for as far back as it goes, I'm not sure. That'd be a question for Marco. I'm not sure how far back you can go to get reimbursed for incidents that have happened. Yeah, it's a new one, so I'll look it up though. So I'll give him a call. Thank you for making me think. Appreciate the question. Okay, if that is, oh, thanks. Thanks so much for your time and your questions, and I really appreciate the conversation. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm learning stuff as well, and really appreciate you sharing all your stories, because it's a significant issue, and to be able to see the reality of it and the grassroots and people on the ground it's important to keep in mind. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Your microphone, miss.
They're going to bring their ball box,
Oh, perfect.
and then we'll just...
Need it up there.
We always like to wrap things up a little early. It's always nice when we can get on the road a bit sooner. That was a really great conversation. Thank you, Jamie. And to the point earlier about the resources and the barcode and all of these things, we are working on, with Jamie, we're getting a link on our resource page on the GovernWise website. So we will put everything in there that Jamie provides to us. Probably within the next few days, that will be done. So we're back here, the whole team again. We do have a few minutes, so if there are any last minute questions that you have of any of the team, after closing, we'll be at the back. So if you want to come in and see us about anything, please feel free to do so. So we'd just like to really give you a great big thank you. Hopefully you all have gone back with a cup. Yes, sir, in the hat. There you go. Yeah, that's live. You meant to turn it on, right on the.
Hello. Okay. There we go. There you go. Okay, I just want to thank for you guys doing these presentations. Day one to right now, we learned a lot, and I just want to thank you guys for holding this event. It's learned a lot, lots of information that we're going to take it back to our communities and work with our communities to make it better. Thank you.
Thank you. That's what we like to hear. That's what means the most, is if we have a couple of people come and say, I have a great idea, I'm bringing it back to community, I'm ready to share, I made some contacts, that's what we're here for. That's the goal. So that was a great day. You know, HR, hopefully you can bring home something from that day. And then yesterday, everything that we went through with the chief and council roles and responsibilities and board governance. And now today with some of these finance and emergency management. And I think, Jamie, there was a lot of conversation. I think we need to plug in another webinar soon, because whenever there's a lot of conversation, it means that we can follow up and do a little bit more. So thank you again. So again, we want to thank you. We were going to do a draw, the last draw, and then do you have your ticket, Dave? No? Give everyone a minute to find their ticket. You got it? No?
I won't win anyways.
Oh, look at that. Someone's paying it forward. Good job. Oh, there's a ticket over here.
found one?
Well, we'll draw. I mean, we've had a few people leave, so we'll just draw until someone's here in the room. So, so again, thank you. We're going to close it off, do the draw, and then we're going to call upon Dave to come and close us off. So we wish everybody safe travels. Thanks again for coming. Make sure you register for our mailing list. We have a lot of great free webinars coming up and always adding more. And we will be looking at some small regional workshops in the new year. So we're going to be sending a survey out to see if you might be interested, what topics, what location would be the best for you, and that's the plan for the new year. So we want to hear from you. So let's do the final draw. I'll let you guys do that. I don't even know how to do this part. Who's going to pick? Maddie's going to pick.
Okay. And the winning ticket is number 335671.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Is that the only one we have? Yeah, that's the last one. It's time for you. Come. Come. We're done. We're ready. Peter, Jen?
Hani kanısiduk nin mishkugenun in ijinikaz wabajeshin in dudem. Beautiful days that we've spent together, getting to meet one another, getting to hear each other's stories. A lot of times, it's not the actual workshop we learn from, it's from each other. The camaraderie, they call it, the spending of time with one another, the sharing of stories of our hardship, of our pain. But we've lived through all of those things. Hajuan Mishin, they call it, have compassion for us. So we would ask our relatives, Nikani Siduk, my relatives left the great Lake Superior, a place called Bawating, and we moved this way. And as we moved this way, we left there with 55 members of our tribe, the family of Babaquias. We left there and we made our way west. We followed a shell. One of your presenters lifted that shell up. We still follow that shell. Wherever that shell appears, that is where we move towards. We migrate to where the Spirit tells us to move. Our relatives laid down beside the waters. There was a great pandemic in the 1700s, and as it wiped out 2/3 of our nation, continent, 2/3 of our people died because of COVID back then. As we were moving through that time in history, we picked up people with our canoes. We were navigators. We left there 55. We now number over 11,000 in our tribe, and yet we still a lot of our tribal members don't know who we are. But we come from Anishinaabe country. We speak Anishinaabe. We lost it due to the laws in residential school, but our children and our grandchildren are taking it back, and they're doing it with a great authority. Some people call them disrespectful. I call them courageous. Not too long ago, they tore down the Queen of England in the legislative building. They pulled them down, and a lot of the older people said that's disrespectful. So I told my granddaughter, I said, why would you just do that? She says, Papa, we're not afraid. Nobody's going to do that to you again. Beautiful, beautiful words from young people. That maybe our history was about being quiet. Theirs is about making a noise and telling people, we're here. You ain't going to do that to us again. Nobody can come and steal the things that the Creator gave to us. We as Anishinaabe, there was an elder back then, and he sang a song to my great grandfather, and down the line it was passed on and passed on and passed on. So those of you that have come from the East, this is where this song was born. And it'll send it home to your ancestors, and it'll tell you that your ancestors that have moved from way over there to over here, we still talk about you, we still think about you, because it is where we come from. Good to meet you and good to see you again. Tell them we're still singing your grandfather's song. Walk strong wherever you're walking. Know that your ancestors were here because we sing about it. Go home and tell them that they're still talking about our grandfathers over there in the West as you go back east, and that every morning at daybreak we think of our ancestors, that where we left, and that someday, someplace, we will meet again. Until then, Minnow b'madzun, have a good life, live a good life, enjoy it. For it is the greatest gift that Hagajeh Manidu gave to us, was life itself. Amigwach for inviting me to your gathering. Mio, ni kanagana.